Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ here. Tonight is kind of a strange topic, but it all relates to everything else. What else do I ever talk about besides Cluster B? It relates to all that. This one tonight involves the media, which is your television, it's your movies, it's your radio, it is your anything basically non-internet related, plus what's internet related in some cases. I'll first start off by mentioning the so-called reality TV that we see. I have a feeling, always had a feeling, that reality TV was not necessarily really reality TV, but is designed to not be scripted like a movie, yet, from what I've uncovered, it actually is. It's scripted to look like reality, and I used to live with that monster who used to love those reality shows. I won't mention names of shows, but he'd sit there and watch them, and I would tell him, it's like, that stuff is fake. And he would be like, no, it's not. No, it's not. They simply set up a camera and just film them day to day to day. And I think, I thought, okay, well, let's put a camera in here. Do you really think that in a real life situation, what goes on day to day would actually be worthy of a television show? I don't think so. It might be in some people's lives, but more than likely, even with careful editing and making things look more dramatic than they really are by cutting and pasting and switching stuff around, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It goes beyond such shows as the ones I won't mention, which I know people love, and I agree, it's entertainment, but doesn't necessarily mean it's reality. But I'm switching right now, for the moment, to the talk show reality TV versions. And once again, will not mention any specific reality TV hosts, but the example I have for you actually comes from like maybe 20 years ago, which that by itself indicates this reality TV situation is still pretty much the same, which means it's not necessarily real. But my story is that I used to go to a specific hairdresser who was a guy, and he periodically would dress up in drag as a lady, and he looked really pretty as a lady. I mean, he was fine as a man, but you see a lot of drag queens and they look like a man with a beard and a wig and a dress. This one didn't. This one actually looked, as they call, passing. He was passing as a lady. And I'm not posting any pictures here, but he basically, not just the face, not just the hair, it was like the whole thing. When you saw him, he looked very, very nice. Like I'd see him out at the nightclub. I'd see him as the normal male self. And then the next week he'd be dressed up, and I found it fascinating, like an art form. Like, wow, how can you transform yourself into that? Oh my goodness. But eventually he told me something when I was getting a haircut or something. Oh, I'm going to be on the la 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 blank blank blank. show, which is one of those shows that's like a talk show. And I thought, wow. So, again, it's the old days. So I set the VCR to record it and later watched it. Well, I watched the show and I saw him slash her, and it was entertaining. However, it brought some questions up. So I better tell you what the show was about so you understand. Basically, it was one of those shows where they have a theme. The theme was, and I don't remember the exact terms, and I still can't find the video on VHS, and I wish I could, but the point of the story or the theme was this. They had like a quote running across the screen, which was, "I was a geeky teen in high school, but look at me now." And that was like the whole theme of the show. Well, in this case, this person, who was now a pretty drag queen. So the point of the show was, he went to high school, and he was a geeky high school person, and in high school he wasn't dressing up as a lady, but he was probably kind of feminine. And so for the show, what they did was they pulled in this masculine guy who went to the same high school as my friend, and they had him first on the show, sitting there, and of course the host or hostess said, "Yeah, I probably wonder why you're here today, don't you?" Which I'm pretty sure he knew, but that's beside the point. And the guy was like, "Yeah, what am I here for?" And so the host slash hostess said, "Well, what do you remember in your high school days about a person named blah blah blah," whatever the name was? And the guy, who was a rough and tough straight guy, would be like, "Oh, I remember that one. Huh, that was Boy George," which is common, well, was common back then. So he was like saying, "That's boy, I used to call him Boy George." Yeah, huh. And so they talked back and forth about this person, and eventually I said, "Okay, well, take a look." And then the music came on and the curtain opened, and then there walked out my friend, dressed up in fancy hair, fancy makeup, fancy body, dress, beauty. And again, if you didn't know, you'd probably think, "Wow, she's pretty." And then she sat down on the opposite bench. And I watched this from home thinking, "Wow, this is interesting." And then they would talk back and forth, and the guy, the straight guy, would be kind of like making fun of her, and she would be like being catty to him, and it was just like a conversation back and forth. And then eventually the host or hostess said to her, "So, are you taking hormones?" And she said, "Yes, I'm taking hormones." And they were discussing all this. And again, this is back in the 80s, before this stuff was even like it is today, but regardless, I watched that and I heard that from home. I thought, hormones? Huh? So I was like making a mental list of questions because I'd never heard that. Because as far as I knew, he just liked to go out in costume every so often. But now I'm learning hormones? So anyway, they fought back and forth, and the drag queen was like saying to the guy, like, "You're probably gay yourself." Back and forth, because we all know about the stuff we experienced in high school where, like with me, I didn't look like the regular high school guy. I would be more creative, and as a result, I'd walk down the halls, and then certain tough guys would like see me and say, "You're a fag!" And I'd think, Okay. And those same people, like 10 years later, would be out at the bars. Hi, I'm so sorry I was mean to you in high school. Oh, give me a hug. Same type of crap. But anyway, he was using that type of idea to, like, criticize the guy. Well, anyway, the show ended, and I saw the friend again later, and I said, wow, I didn't know that you were taking hormones. And I was told, oh, I'm not taking hormones. He/she just told me to say that to make it more dramatic. There's your key point there. This is real life example. He doesn't take hormones, but for this show, they wanted to make it more dramatic. So later I asked a little bit more, well, like, what about the guy? Who was he? And I learned that the guy who supposedly hated him in high school was another gay. That was, there are different types of gays. There are the ones who are feminine, and then there are the tough guy ones. Well, this happened to be a tough guy one that was friends with him from day one. But, once again, the scripted slash non-scripted show, they were on there to present a specific dynamic which was not based in reality. But I'm sure it gained ratings, plus the extra fake details. And my guess is they probably shared the same hotel room, but that's not confirmed. But the point is, the television you watch it for entertainment, but don't expect that what you're seeing is real. My next endeavor is going to go a little bit further in relation to all this, and the television and the media, which will be a little bit more controversial, which I don't care because from what I've seen, something's wrong out there, but that's my view. But we're going to move on into the world of the conspiracy theorist, those crazy people who just watch the news and hear the story as it's told, and then just automatically come up with an idea that that's not what happened, it was this. No, that's not the case. But specifically, we'll focus on the Orlando massacre, which, again, is controversial because what I've learned, as far as the media goes, is this. Our brains are programmed a specific way. So, for example, if tonight I've had my dinner, I've done all my tasks for the day, and I've decided I think I'm going to sit down and watch a movie. Well, I'll sit down and lay down, and I'll pick my remote up, and I'll pick the movie I want to watch, and I will watch it, and suspend disbelief because I'm watching a movie. It's a movie, and I'll watch and listen and enjoy and whatever. Well, that's like one mind frame of existence. However, the movie finally ends, and so I click stop. Well, then I switch to the news. The news key word here. And then I see newscasters talking about this and talking about that. And the typical person who's been brainwashed since childhood will switch their mindset from, I'm sitting here enjoying, suspending disbelief and watching a film, to, oh, switch, the news, this is real. And it's so common that people's brains will switch, and whatever word the newscaster says is taken as 1,000% fact. No question, no critical thinking, No questioning of anything. It's just, oh, they're going to tell us what's going on now in the world. Well, I've learned since that you can't really do that. Well, you can, but if you do that, beware. Which will come up in the next one, but still, that's the way a lot of us have been programmed to behave. Like when you're a child and your parents are watching the news and they're like, oh wow, this happened because of this. And you're a kid and you see that and you model that later on when you're older and you think, well, I want to know what's going on in the world. And you turn the TV on and you watch. Well, I'm here to do something that will probably get me murdered by the Illuminati. But I have some sick truths to share with you. And also, just I'm here to share that what you see on that television, which is again another version of reality TV, which is called news, does not necessarily represent what is actually really happening. And I'm going to wear a bulletproof vest. Now, my purpose here tonight is not to claim anything is true or is not true. I'm just picking one of the random events in this world to use as an example, which happens to be the Orlando Massacre. The situation here is that I've watched the footage. I've watched the videos from the mainstream media, which will be addressed in a moment later. Maybe a different video, but regardless, remember, we're trained to watch the news and believe, not question. But after 9/11 and the questions I had about that, my consciousness changed just a bit. But that's, again, saving for later. Point was, I heard the story about the Orlando. I had a friend I would go out with who would say, oh, I'm afraid to go out now. There might be a shooter, which seems to be exactly the point of whoever designed this true story, or maybe not true story, but that's not what we're focusing on. My point of this is I would watch the videos and I would hear the testimony of the victims and the claims of this huge, gigantic military-style rifle that was being used in this little tiny nightclub at close range. And my first thought was, well, if somebody is in this nightclub using such a powerful weapon, or as one of them described it, you know that every single person in that nightclub is gonna look like Carrie after the prom. Bright red with blood. But what do we see in the newscast? We see pristine people looking like they're posing for some kind of jeans ad with skin-tight white pants, not a sliver of red anywhere, and other people that have these nice clothing on, and not a speck of anything red. And I'm thinking, well, if the news is telling us this was the most horrifying massacre in the history of U.S., you would expect to see a bunch of Carries. And I saw zero. So, right off the bat, because I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist, but right off the bat I'm thinking, well, where's the blood? And then, of course, my brain switches to, well, if it is fake, wouldn't I want to make it fit the narrative about the guns they're trying to get rid of that are military style, you would think these people would have their arms chopped off and their face smashed off. But we watch the videos later and see these supposed victims in the hospital claiming to have 6 gunshot wounds, and yet they look perfectly normal except for a tiny little band-aid. So I don't know if I reached a higher level of consciousness to realize that, sure, it was on the news, but who puts a tiny band-aid on a gunshot wound from one of those military-style rifles? And it just brought up a lot of questions, which is very much of a valid concern. Because if such an event happened with such extreme weapons, I would expect to see a bunch of people with limbs missing, with shattered hands, and split off faces, and all kinds of disgust and stuff. But what do I see? I see a bunch of people dressed nicely with no stains, plus a bunch of actors, plus the shooter's an actor, plus the fact that a lot of stuff just really seems to spell fake. And of course, with my Cluster B experience, I'm very well familiar with that. It takes my mind to the Cluster B monster who, in public, is the perfect gentleman, the perfect nice person, the perfect citizen, who never does anything wrong. But then we learn that behind the scenes, evil's being done, and I think of the same type of stuff, like, wait a second. So I'm not claiming that the story's true or false, it's just I'm looking at what I see critically, thinking, okay, I don't understand. Plus, when you watch the videos that show from the news the supposed victims being dragged towards the nightclub, which you can clearly see in the video, and I just have to wonder if this is fake. Is somebody expecting those of us who are critical to notice and cause a big uproar, and then the ones who just listen and believe and accept to put us together to fight? Because I don't know. Because I can see how someone could say, this ain't real. They're pulling them towards the nightclub, and somebody else saying, how dare you, people died. And I'm thinking of the psychopathic cluster B traits, which, if we think of 9/11, whoever planned that from here didn't care if people died. They, in fact, wanted people to die so they could use that as an excuse to say, we can't have terrorism. Oh, it's wrong. Oh. Yet, I don't think it was who they said it was. And back to Orlando. That thing came out where Judge Neapolitano, whatever his name is, said that no murders occurred until 5-something a.m., which totally destroys all the previous testimony we heard from the supposed victims, who claimed that he came in at 2:05 or whatever, and then opened fire and went in the bathroom and called this company and called this and texted Facebook and then called the TV station and called 911. It all, to me, just sounded really fake, like really phony. Because what this FBI thing is claiming is that he came in at 2 whatever and then didn't murder anybody until 5. Yet all these testimonies of witnesses are, oh, he came in the bathroom, he was on the phone with the TV station, he was on the phone with 911, and da-da-da, and he killed this one and killed that one, and dead bodies were everywhere, and I had to crawl over them, even though my clothes are completely clean. And it's just a big mess, because I don't know if they fucked it up on purpose to make those who pay attention cause a ruckus, or if they just are stupid, but I don't think they'd be that stupid. But my point is, I don't have any type of strong belief that it was real or it was fake. It's just, there are lots of unanswered questions. And what this leads to then is to the comment sections of social media, such as YouTube, where you'll see somebody say, this ain't what happened, here's proof, and they'll post like a video, and then you'll get the brainwashed people like we all were or are, of, how dare you be so insensitive, people died, I can't believe you'd even suggest this. And I think, wait a second, did you not see what I saw? Because I'm not here to say it's right or it's wrong. I'm just here to say there are lots of questions. But it's sickening to see the people in these postings saying that whatever they were told is true, and how dare you suggest otherwise. And it makes me think of the cluster B mother blankers I used to be involved with, where I'd see the lipstick on the neck, I'd see the lipstick on the clothes, and say, you were kissing some woman, weren't you? And I'd be told, oh, no, I wasn't. You're sick, you're paranoid. Okay, well then where did the red lipstick come from? Oh, I was painting and it splattered on me. Okay. People think we're retarded, but we're not.
My son's name is... Don't look at the reflections of the monitors of my glasses. That's a green screen behind me. My son's name is Jesus Christ. We've got to get rid of the weapons. Can't we just get along?
You know what? Don't talk to me anymore. Don't call me anymore. I don't want to hear from you anymore. I can't do this because you lied to me once. It's over.